Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Reading from abridged version of Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Tomorrow is the actual day. Today we have a festival and there's a talk about it. He built a house in which the whole world lived. So this is Srila Prabhupada on the way after the heart attack. He's going for the first time back to India with one devotee. On the way to India, he stops in New York. In New York, the devotees didn't have much time for sadness. Kirtanananda telegraphed Sri Krishna Pandit that Bhaktivedanta Swami's arrival in Delhi would be on July 24th at 7:30 a.m. and that Sri Krishna Pandit should prepare the Swami's quarters at the Chippiwada temple. The telegram mentioned Swamiji's intention to consult a physician in Delhi and then go to Vrindavan. He was anxious to return to Vrindavan. Devotees had been asking Satswarup to transfer his civil service job to Boston and open a Krishna conscious center there. They had also asked Rupanuga to do the same in Buffalo. When Satswarup and Raganuga approached Swamiji to find out what he wanted, he became very pleased. Subal was going to open a center in Santa Fe, he said, and Dayananda was going to Los Angeles. Hare Krishna mantra is like a big cannon, he told them. Go and sound this cannon so everyone can hear it, and it will drive away Maya. The devotees wanted to ask, but what if you don't return? They were fearful. But what if Krishna kept Swamiji in Vrindavan? What if Swamiji never returned? How could they survive against Maya? But Swamiji had already assured them that whatever Krishna consciousness he had given them would be enough, even if he never returned. Just 30 minutes before he had to leave for the airport, Swamiji sat in his room chanting on the beats of a girl who had asked to be initiated. Then, as he had done many times before, he left his apartment, went downstairs, crossed the courtyard, and entered the storefront. Sitting on the old carpet, he spoke quietly and personally. I'm going, but my Guru Maharaj and Bhaktivinoda are here. He looked over the paintings of his spiritual master and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I have asked them to kindly take care of all of you, my spiritual children. The grandfather always takes care of the children much better than the father. So do not fear. There is no question of separation. The sun vibration fixes us up together, even though The material body may not be there. What do we care for this material body? Just go on chanting Hare Krishna and we will be packed up together. You will be chanting here and I will be chanting there. And this vibration will circulate around this planet. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 5, text number 43. Tantu Krintana Yan Nas Tvam Tantu Kritana Yan Nas Tvam Tantu Kritana Yan Nas Tvam Abhadram Achara Puna Abhadram Achara Puna Abhadram Achara Puna Tasmal Lokeshu Te Mudha Tasmalokeshu Te Mudha Tasmalokeshu Te Mudha Na Bhaved Brahmata Padam Na Bhaved Brahmata Padam Na Bhaved Brahmata Padam Tantu Kritana Yannastvam Abhadramachara Puna Tasmalokeshu Te Mudha Na Bhaved Brahmata Padam Tantu Kritana Yannastvam Abhadramachara Puna Tasmalokeshu Te Mudha Na Bhaved Brahmata Padam Tantu Kritana Yannastvam Abhadramachara Puna Tasmalokeshu Te Mudha Na Bhaved Brahmata Padam Tantu Krintana Yannastvam Abhadramachara Punaha Tasmalokeshu Te Mudha Na Bhaved Brahmata Padam Abhadramachara Punaha Tasmalokeshu Te Mudha Na Bhaved Brahmata Padam Tatu Krintana Yannastvam Abhadramachara Puna Mudha Na Bhaved Brahmata Padam. Vaishnavis. Tantu Kritana Yannastvam Abhadramachara Puna Tasmalokeshu Te Mudha Nabhavid Brahmata Padam Tantu Krintana Yannastvam Abhadram Acharapuna Tasmalakeshu Te Mudha Nabhavid Brahmata Padam Tantu Krintana, O mischief monger who have mercilessly separated my sons from me. Yet which Naha unto us, Tvam, you, Abhadram, an inauspicious thing, Acharaha, have done, Punaha, again, Tasmat, therefore, Lokeshu, in all the planetary systems within the universe, Te, of you, Mudha, or rascal not knowing how to act. Na, not, Bhavet, there may be, Brahmataha, who are wandering, Padam, an abode. Translation of purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. You have made me lose my sons once, and now you have again done the same inauspicious thing. Therefore you are a rascal who does not know how to behave towards others. You may travel all over the universe, but I curse you to have no residence anywhere. Purport. Because Prajapati Daksha was a Grihamedi who wanted to remain in household life, he thought that if Narada Muni could not remain in one place but had to travel all over the world, that would be a great punishment for him. Actually, however, such a punishment is a boon for a preacher. A preacher is known as Parivrajacharya, an acharya or teacher who always travels for the benefit of human society. Prajapati Daksha cursed Narada Muni by saying that although he had the facility to travel all over the universe, he would never be able to stay in one place. In the Parampara system from Narada Muni, I have also been cursed. Although I have many centers that would be suitable places of residence, I cannot stay anywhere, for I have been cursed by the parents of my young disciples. Since the Krishna consciousness movement was started, I have traveled all over the world 2 or 3 times a year, and although I am provided comfortable places to stay wherever I go, I cannot stay anywhere for more than 3 days or a week. I do not mind this curse by the parents of my disciples, but now it is necessary that I stay in one place to finish another task. This translation of Srimad Bhagavatam. If my young disciples, especially those who have taken sannyas, take charge of traveling all over the world, it may be possible for me to transfer the curse of the parents to these young preachers. Then I may sit down conveniently in one place for the work of translation. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. So the translation again. You have made me lose my sons once, and now you have again done the same inauspicious thing. Therefore, you are a rascal who does not know how to behave toward others. You may travel all over the universe, but I curse you to have no residence anywhere. So I would like to congratulate you. I think you in this Narada Muni Sampradaya. We can see here so many people from all around the world. Looks like you left your home country to travel and share Krishna consciousness around the world. I can't see any Scottish this morning here at the class. We have some Americans and Indians and Englishmen and Brazilians and Lithuanians and Mauritian. So of course I don't want to discourage anyone, but I think you have been cursed into this sampradaya to leave your home country, and would like to thank as well that you are here, and you maybe not necessarily be in Scotland, but somehow or another in this part of the world, you left your home country. As you can see, such a strong attachment forms to your country, to your relatives and friends from that country, and there is a certain cultural connection and a certain kind of environment. For the first time, I realized how I am culturally conditioned. When I was a student, I went to the United States, and you kind of grow up in this small country, Lithuania, in a village. And I guess that's not the first time when I had a culture shock. First time was to go outside your village into a big city. You get a bit of a culture shock. People speak with a different accent, a little bit more posh, and you realize you have this village accent yourself. And then going abroad, I think that's one of the biggest cultural shocks was for me. I went to United States actually as a student to kind of travel and earn a little bit of money, and they realized that this Lithuania was kind of a big village in some way. And people have a different cultural understanding, and it gives you kind of sense of freedom, and that's, I guess, I end up in abroad because I liked the sense of freedom of kind of being away, and maybe that was like a seed of spiritual life, that you, from whatever you conditioned in this box, of Lithuanian box, that you grow up and you go out, and it gives you some freedom, and you can break for certain conceptions, from a certain way of thinking, from a certain way of behaving, and certain way of dancing or not dancing. Like I realized later on as well, that, for example, Lithuanians can be a bit of kind of reserved people, and somehow or another, this was the seed of actually breaking from my a little bit of Lithuanian box and entering international box. And then that freedom that it gives you from the conceptions, you feel encouraged, you feel inspired, and you want more. You want more freedom. And actually, that's probably one of the reasons that led me to spiritual life, because I wanted further to break from various conceptions that are there. And Krishna consciousness allows you to break from so many conceptions, misconceptions, bodily identifications that we pick up. So many things in this material world, so many conceptions and identities, whether we are, Lithuanian, or we're from a, I was born in Shilutė, or you're from Shilutė. Sorry that I'm using my example, but sometimes it helps to illustrate the point. Some personal experience. So we pick up identities, and with the gender comes a certain identity. With nationalities comes identity. With your football club, that's a big thing in Scotland. You gain a certain identity. I am fan, of Glasgow Rangers or Glasgow Celtic. With the education and with the age as well, it gives a certain identity. I'm a young person, I'm the middle age, I'm the senior, and it kind of practically conditions you with a certain type of behavior. But when you reach Srimad Bhagavatam, when you come across the spiritual knowledge, it's actually often takes all your conceptions upside down. Have you ever experienced this? It can really kind of shake almost your existence, and certain things it feels like almost unacceptable even. It really is like a slap in the face with a wet fish, as they say. It's the back of it fish, it kind of flaps. So if you put it too close to your face, you get like a few good flaps. So we become so engrossed in these identities that it can be disturbing. And you can see that that's what happened with Daksha. Daksha is a family person. He had so many children. He had a certain conception of how to go on in life. Let those children get married. Let the children have lots of children themselves. Let us populate the universe. This is my duty. This is my identity. And Narada Muni came and actually he gave the ultimate to the children. He said, you can now go back to Galia to become renunciants, to become spiritual people. And he gave them actually ultimate purpose. It fulfilled the ultimate purpose of why we are here. But he was just caught up in this next step, in this what is, materially beneficial, but it didn't see and didn't understand what is ultimately beneficial. So you find it very disturbing, because Narada Muni break down to some extent, or to largest extent, his conception of what was the life's purpose. And that is natural, to have some immediate goals. Even when we hear about ultimate goal, the immediate goals, we can become captured by them, because that's the nature of this material world. We pick up, so many goals, and with which whatever identity we have, uh, then that sets up a certain goal in life. If you are Lithuanian, your goal in life may be survive economically, at least for some of them, because it's not necessarily a very rich country. And I heard sorry that I'm using Lithuania, but I'm just feeling encouraged to have 3 Lithuanians here. I think we're majority today in the temple. I think we're a majority. How many Englishmen? We have 2. Oh, sorry. It's kind of equal Lithuanians and Englishmen. Thank you. So you have this, identity, or you if you're Lithuanian, will be like a basketball fan, and if you are English person, then you will be like very much into football, for example, or Scottish. So various types of identities we pick up in this material world and identify with from our birth, our place of birth, our family, etc. A lot of those things, they set a goal in life. And then, like after finishing studies, for a lot of people will be okay, and it's time to get, find a career and get married, for example. So that sets goal for you for almost like a next 25 years until the, children grow up. And, a lot of people, if we just identify with our temporarily identities and temporary goals, when those goals get fulfilled or they kind of expire, you have to actually move through a lot of identities in your life. In childhood, you're a student, you finish your student years. It's like a shift of identity to enter like a new type of identity. Now I'm a working person, or I'm a family person. I got married, I got children, or children grow up. What is my identity now? So a lot of people just go through this, like a disheartening struggle of, constant change of their situations and identities, and there is no underlying principle there, uh, that, we are very fortunate to have. When that underlying principle is there, is like those changes that we go, it can be traumatizing sometimes, and distressing. So like, when people, when children grow up, it can be a bit of a crisis, and it's identified in psychology, as a middle age crisis. For example, when you hit 50, 60 years old and your children has grow up, it's a loss of identity as a parent to some extent. Anyway, maybe you become grandparent and you can regain it to some extent. But if your children on the other side of the world, for example, it can be a great loss of identity. Or, for young people as well, when you're growing out of teenage years and you're entering adulthood, it's a very traumatic experience that a lot of young people go through, to understand why I'm here, what is the purpose of my existence, and etc. So these are actually very crucial moments in life, to actually find the underlying identity that gives a purpose to our existence beyond all those external identities that we have, that are constantly changing. But there is one identity that is always with us. It's very, very, is the most powerful thing to establish that identity in our life, because we can always come back to it when some serious changes, um, are entering our life, when we're going from one stage to another, in terms of our age, in terms of our education, in terms of career, in terms of, so entering some other stage of existence, when it can be, kind of entering almost like unknown. And that is the challenge, for all of us. We get used to something, and become attached to it. This is the nature, in one sense, of the soul, because soul is in this constant bliss, with Krishna, and is fully expressing that, identity and experience in Goloka Vrindavan. So when it is here in this material world, it tends to cling on and attach itself, to so many things that we surround ourselves, to things, to relatives, to the country, the nationality, and so many other, as mentioned. We went through this. We tend to cling on, and so when things are changing and moving forward, it can be very, very tough, and sometimes fearful. Uncertainty is a very, very big struggle for a lot of people. What's gonna happen next? How are we gonna go on? How I can handle the new situations, and etc. So then we can, as devotees, speaking about devotees, we are so fortunate to have, at least theoretically, to some extent, understanding that we have an eternal identity as an eternal servant of Krishna. So as we move on, through those different stages of life, this is the essence of our existence. In all those different stages of life, I am actually an eternal servitor of Krishna. Whether I'm a young person, whether I'm a family person, whether I'm, uh, male or female, whichever situation, at different ages that we go, entering different stages, is an opportunity to serve and express the service. It may manifest in a different way in our different stages in life, but it's opportunity for service and serve Krishna. If you can hold on to this, then that challenge and struggle, it still will be there, to a certain degree, but it won't be as traumatic, and it will be very, very educational. It will be very, very inspiring. In due course of time, when we become established in that new identity, that it will be very, very educative. Finding, how I can serve in this new situation, how I can express my eternal propensity for service and loving Krishna in this new situation. And you can see Daksha, you couldn't handle this thing. You couldn't see beyond what was, because he was materially very conditioned and materially attached. He didn't see that Narada Muni fulfilled the ultimate purpose of his children, to attain a pure devotion to Krishna, because he was missing that point in his life. He was extremely disturbed, and therefore it is the greatest service. So many people are suffering in this material concept of life, going through these different stages, and because also in Kali Yuga we become so much, because our standard of happiness became so gross, and on a physical level, and it's almost like obsessive, because those, just on a physical platform, those gratifications that are there, we become extremely, obsessed and attached, and it's kind of not satisfying. It's like agitating. So many people are suffering in these different concepts of life. And we're speaking about fulfilling those identities, but a lot of people don't even fulfill the identity that they're supposed to be fulfilling. That is even more. Shikodanitai Maya Purusha Shiki. Yeah. It's a special moment to remind us about our eternal identities as the eternal servant of the Lord. So this different, it is an opportunity for us to express our identities and break up. So yeah, coming back to the point of how people are become so much obsessed and disturbed in their material identities, and often they are not even fulfill those identities, so they become depressed. One thing is when you fulfill, you become very attached and absorbed. But when you don't fulfill, it's very depressing. It's described in the Shastra that even to maintain a family in this age of Kali, it's a great effort. It's extremely difficult just to maintain a family. So, in order to then help people and share this transcendental knowledge and give them this shelter in their eternal identity, is considered the greatest service. There is no greater service than this. And this is what Narada Muni's mission is traveling around the world and fulfilling this mission of sharing Krishna consciousness and reminding people what is their identity, and based on that identity, what is their eternal goal. So then, even the death is no longer fearful. The greatest fear, and in this material existence, is to leave everything behind, leave your material identity behind, leave your relatives, your nationality, your bank account, your empire, whatever empire you have created in this material world, thinking that it will stay forever. All that you have to leave behind. But if you know your eternal identity, and you have developed relationship with Krishna, you're going back to Krishna, or maybe you're taking another birth as a very elevated devotee of Krishna. That is such a great relief and such a great service to the humanity, is to free them out of this existence. So even if, and that's what happens, when you give this knowledge, some people who are attached and surrounded, by those people who are keeping them in that material existence, it's a good chance they will get disturbed. some of the relatives, if you start becoming Krishna conscious and really getting into Krishna consciousness, if you're getting just a little bit, it's fine, as long as it's a hobby, everybody's happy. But as soon as you start to go deeper, or even starting to think, oh, maybe this is something I would like to dedicate my life to, then a lot of people will get disturbed in your family circles. Sorry? Yes, it's a really good point. When you start changing your conception and you're starting to come out of this box, a lot of people will really not appreciate it, and they use many words. They have interesting languages. They use like cult, brainwashing, and of course, in some circumstances, it is true. In some circumstances, it is true. There are some cults, and there is the brainwashing that is going on. But we're speaking about the genuine spiritual culture that is liberating us from our material condition. And some people that we thought that maybe are well-wishers, we may suddenly realize they're not all of them. Or they may go, through like a good few years or even decade until they eventually appreciate, this is actually what you're doing, because they're just not ready, so material attached and conditioned and so absorbed in the cocoon of their existence, that they will not appreciate, for a good while, until they see that you're actually doing a lot better than them. Although they may have a big bank account, they may have some career, they may have some status and position in the society. And some devotees have that and they use it in Krishna service. It's completely fine. But some devotees may not, choose a more simple way of life and may not have that. But they choose so much happiness, and they experience so much happiness, and having that greatest wealth of Krishna consciousness. It is actually said that the one speck of dust from the lotus feet of Krishna is more valuable than entire wealth of this all material world. There's such a greatest treasure that we've been given. Should value so much this opportunity. So eventually people appreciate, not everyone, but if they're your true well-wishers, if they do care to some extent, and we do have, the highest love is in this material world, parents to children, especially mother, but father too. Then they so unconditionally care. If they truly care, then eventually they truly appreciate the fact that you are actually happy, although you may not necessarily externally achieve what they were expecting you to achieve. But at least so for them it take time, but we at least should appreciate this is the greatest opportunity. There's no greater treasure than to have this opportunity to serve Krishna. So when we share this knowledge with others, it is a greatest service. It's the greatest service, and it can be done in so many ways according to our capacity, whether it's giving a book, setting an example, fanning the spark in some way of someone, befriending someone, and encouraging them and giving that transcendental knowledge. Is so simple, just simply to say, you're not the body, you're a spirit soul. You have an eternal identity as eternal servant of Krishna. You'll be truly happy by fulfilling this identity. It's very, very simple. You don't have to be a great scholar, but we have to exemplify, we have to live this life of service, and then it will come with a lot of potency when we speak, even if it's very simple words. So, are there any questions or comments on this? Yes, Prabhu.
That he's referring to losing his sons, because it's almost like he's killing the sons. He's regarding it as, you've just killed my sons once, and now you're killing my sons again. So I think that's like an overreaction. and then to call him a rascal. I mean, if somebody killed your sons, then you would think he was a rascal, but he hasn't killed them. He's made them immortal. And then he curses him by saying that you can travel where you like, but you won't be able to stay anywhere. You'll have no residence. I was wondering why has he cursed him like that? Because it doesn't seem such a heavy curse. You know, if you consider someone's killed your sons, and then you just say you can't stay anywhere.
I mean, it is one fear, in his particular case, and a fear for all of us. By becoming, that's what happens. You have this transition period as well, like becoming Krishna conscious, and your relatives may not appreciate what you're doing. Your friends may not appreciate what you're doing. It seems that you're losing so much because this is a safety in that relationship. There's a lot of safety to be, with the parents and the friends that we knew for a long time, but it may be really detrimental to achieve our ultimate goal of life. Not always, but in some circumstances it can be difficult and detrimental. So entering this different community and different situation and making new friends, it can be a challenging thing. But we need to understand, and actually I think you mentioned this yesterday about entering this community. We have a eternal community. There's people that we know in this material world, in a spiritual world where we belong, is to renewing those relationships and learning to live within those relationships in a spiritual life, in a spiritual world, and learning how to associate with devotees, and learning how to serve unconditionally, and learning so many devotional qualities that manifest there. So there is a bit of a kind of uncertainty period when we have to kind of lose something to gain something. But this is then what is called fate. So like when the spaceship leaves the planet to enter the cosmos, they do have faith that it's going to reach destination because they heard, there's another planet, there is Mars, or, there is a moon, and etc. So spaceship on the basis of faith, it loses a lot of energy. It uses a lot of energy to leave the gravitational force to enter this other planet. So it can be a tough period, but then we reach destination on a basis of the faith. But as we can see, Daksha, he wasn't prepared to enter that different destination. When things live and change in our life, we have to increase our knowledge and we have to increase our realization. But Daksha wasn't prepared to do that. He wanted to keep everything on his level. So therefore he was cursing. He cursed Narada Muni that he disturbed his existence, he disturbed his life, it disturbed his everything that he believed and that he believed in. And because he was so attached, and the reason why he cursed in this specific way, because wherever we are, it becomes like a castle. It becomes the space of our existence where we forget everything. In that comfort, in a comfortable situation, it creates a forgetfulness because we are not challenged. Entering a different situation and different space, it can be a challenge, but it helps us to really grow and flourish. But so for him, because he was so kind of sleeping and comfortable into that situation, for him, to curse somebody to get out of that situation, it was the greatest curse. And Prabhupada mentions actually that in the purport, to enter from the space that you're very familiar into, and you kind of forgetful and comfortable and etc. For him, that was the greatest pleasure. So to curse, to not be in that place, it was like a greatest curse. So that's how he ended up cursing Narada Muni in this specific place, because he thought this is going to be the greatest punishment for him of losing a comfort and being in one nice place. So I don't know whether that answers your question. Sorry, it's a bit extended.
is intimacy. And I was reading about psychology that intimacy is the thing that scares people the most. And their way of dealing with it is to distance themselves. And then when they distance themselves, the very thing that they want, they can't get, which is intimacy. So they're afraid to be intimate because then they'll be vulnerable. So then they distance themselves and they become depressed because they're disconnected from other people. So it's kind of, and like Daksha's, he's completely mixed up. He's giving a curse which is a blessing, and he's embracing a curse to be entangled in family life and the repetition of birth and death. He's embracing that as a blessing.
Mhm.
So he's thinking the worst thing that could happen to somebody is to become renounced and have to travel all over the place.
Mm. Yeah, it's a fantastic point, and I mean, one of the main reasons we, are afraid intimacy, because in the age of Kali, we have very painful experience of, being hurt, because people deal with each other in a mode of passion, in a mode of ignorance, and therefore, they hurt each other. So, once bitten, twice shy. So people, that's why there's so much impersonalism in this age of Kali, because you get so much hurt, you rather than merge into impersonal existence. You don't want to almost like maintain your personality, because almost like a personality means pain. To have a personality means pain, struggle, with the relationships and etc. So you become, but actually by passing this problem to other people, that they will hurt me, it can be a little bit disempowering, but we can take the power back in our hands by actually cultivating forgiveness, cultivating Vaishnava qualities. But then, no matter where you are, nobody can hurt you. We can get hurt when we can be hurt. We can't be hurt when we are very, very forgiving, and it's, of course, it's extremely difficult, to do, to develop this natural forgiveness. But as we cultivate, then whenever this opportunity comes for something that's gonna hurt us, we, as Adakshita Prabhu often quotes, Mahatma Prabhu, I believe, and some other teachers quote, and is a fundamental quality of devotee. We can be already forgiving the person even before they cursed us. And I mean, I'm failing all the time, but practice makes perfect. We become free from the cycle of birth, not birth as well, but hurt. Sorry, from the cycle of hurt. When we become forgiving, it's liberating, and of course, it's, as again Adakshita Prabhu speaks often. It's like a counterintuitive. How we can forgive anybody who has hurt us. It seems so unfair. It is so unfair, to forgive anyone. You like them to suffer and go through some pain as well as we went through pain. But I mean, I'm just speaking theoretically. I don't have any deep realization of this, but I know it's a way to go. It's a really way to go, to become free from the cycle of hurt, and by cultivating forgiveness. And then we can, very happily live in association with devotees. And also another thing is that, to be able to vulnerable, as you say, if you cultivate humility. So our status, another thing that can be challenging is our status. If we lose a certain status, and I'm a great devotee, or etc. That's another thing, that can be quite vulnerable. Yes, Will.
Thank you,
Sorry, I'm
Prabhupada.
just,
Is it
please
okay
go
to
ahead.
ask a question?
Please, yes.
So how is it like Daksha mentioned a Grihemedi and Narad Muni, pure devotee. So how is it the curse is being affected as well? Someone who isn't purely practicing Krishna consciousness, because Vedic standards say that curse happens because of the purity of the person. But here Daksha isn't that pure, Narad Muni being a pure devotee. So how come the curse comes into effect?
In general, one of the main reasons curse exists is to facilitate people who are not pure devotees. Because pure devotees very rarely curse. I mean, Narada Muni, we know, cursed, once or twice, but that's quite rare. Generally, people use the curse who are materially conditioned. Somebody has offended them, hurt them, so they just curse it back. Okay, this is for you. So, a gift. I've been hurt, and I'm just sending a curse back to you. Yes, Prabhu, you wanted to go. Yes.
Affected the curse, but he accepted it. He accepted, but although Shringi wasn't, comparatively, his stature was much inferior to Maharaj Parikshit. So in the same way, Narada Muni accepted the curse. He didn't have to accept because he was a pure devotee.
Question being, suppose how come a non-pure devotee is cursing a pure devotee, and the curse is also coming into effect?
Nice question. Yeah, how not a curse with a not pure motivation can come into effect. There are some curses that may get counteracted, but often a curse can be a favorable for devotional service and for submission of the Lord. So these curses then definitely come true. So if we look in Maharaj Chitraketu, he became, a demon in next life because of curse of, was it Parvati? Yeah, of Parvati. In the next life, we become a demon who was super Krishna conscious. So, because we spoke about Bhagavatam, just flipping all our misconceptions and conceptions. So our conception is that demon will never could be devotee, and Bhagavatam says no, even a demon can be a devotee. So therefore we have Vitrasura. He was born in a demon body. He has a horrible body and etc. But he was a pure devotee to the Lord. But that was, in order to fulfill this education for us, that even a demon can be devoted. It gives a hope, for me, for example. So it gives a hope for whoever background we may be coming from. It can be like very, and some people like even a person who written Ramayana. What is the name of the sage? Valmiki. So he was a dacoit and a thief and all sorts of things. He became a pure devotee of the Lord who written Ramayana. So give us a faith, no matter background, whatever background I may be there, I can become a devotee. So these various curses can fulfill a special, purpose for the Lord. So again, it is anyway eternal principle of a preacher, to be very active and travel a lot, whether locally or internationally. So this curse is just facilitates, and it's already principle, but it kind of, with the Lord's mercy, many purposes can be fulfilled by one action. So with the curse of some materialistic person, it fulfills his desire, but also it facilitates a lot of different pastimes of the Lord. Once as well, Lord Chaitanya was cursed by one materialistic person. He said, I curse you that you never have any material wealth. And Lord Chaitanya was in ecstasy. I was so satisfied. Sorry? Yes. So we're running out of time, but we'll try to answer this question quickly.
Demonstrating Krishna's promise, how if you surrender unto me, I'll protect you, do not fear. So to try and instill in us that we don't need to fear, that Krishna's in control, and whatever happens is by his arrangement, and take it on board in that, like Parikshit accepted the curse and Bhagavatam was spoken. The Nani Kuvra and Mani Griva, they accepted a curse. they were demigods, maybe not so pure, but they accepted the curse, and they eventually saw Krishna. So there's always a benediction behind it.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you very much for this comment. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande.
Haribo. His Grace Raghunatha Bhatta Prabhu ki
Gaura
jai.
Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.